The bases dropped for another week of Soccer Down here. John here, Jarrett there. Jason is at Colony Square. And wow, that was almost very poetic for me on a Monday morning. Jason's helping out in the midday. And so that means that it's me and you, Jarrett, for the next 2 days and the next 2 mornings here at SDH.
We'll see if there's anything left standing by the time Jason gets back.
Exactly. So without any further ado, as we always start things off, it is the morning kickoff, the opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. And since Jarrett has been watching, but he hasn't had the chance to let everybody know what he thought about the weekend, I know that Jarrett has an opening kickoff. So I yield the floor to you, Jarrett Smith.
Thank you, Counselor. I don't know what it is about MLS that makes it so difficult for teams to win on the road. I've never been able to figure this out. I'm pretty sure Soccer Analytics have done like dives into this, and I'm sure they have numbers to back it up, but I've never really understood it about what it is. I know there's a lot of travel. Like even Atlanta to Toronto is almost 1,000 miles as the crow flies. I don't know how it's this grueling. As you see, we'll get into Atlanta. Don't worry about that. You see Atlanta drop 2-1 as the Cicadas join me and voice their complaints. The Cicadas are pro-rel. We don't acknowledge the Cicadas. Atlanta goes in, loses 2-1. Red Bulls look pretty lifeless going on the road and against LAFC. You get some weird results on the road in this league, and I think it's like 11 teams only have one win or fewer. I don't know what it is about playing on the road in this league. I don't know if it's just the travel. I don't know if it's something more than that. I don't know if it has to do with the lack of depth because of your salary cap, or you're not able to basically build out the depth you necessarily need. Atlanta has taken this into extremes by turning themselves into a MASH unit. And I don't know how to ever deal with road games personally, because my expectations are low, because it's MLS. Because 2018, I feel like we saw a lot of road wins. New York Red Bulls actually broke the mold this year by winning, I think, 7 straight road games to open the season. It was just an unprecedented run. It sets this expectation of oh man, you're going to go compete on the road. Going to go at least you got to go get a draw on the road. It's it's easier said than done. That's why it's so hard to win. I mean, that's why we say we want 3 points at home and 1 point on the road. That'd be great. Put you in great shape. It's tough to do, though. It's tough enough getting 3 points at home that Atlanta learned in the last few years when teams come in and bunker a lot of times. It's tough to get the job done at home when you have to carry the water the whole way. You get on the road and stuff gets sideways. It gets even tougher to climb back in. And we talked about this leading into the game, John, that Atlanta needed to do what they did against Miami, which is come out on the front foot. They didn't do that. They end up in a hole. They end up scrambling out of that hole only to get put back in after a deflection and a really nicely taken shot that's, in the goal of the week contenders because he one times it. Yeah, you can't put yourself in a hole, and sometimes it's going to happen with young players. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm always kind of weird road games because my expectations are low, just because that's how MLS is. It's tough to win on the road. Again, it's 11 teams only have 1 win or fewer on the road this year, and we've seen a lot of teams that both record wise and performance wise been better than Atlanta United go on the road and lay complete eggs. So I don't ever really know how to deal with road games in my own brain. They're just you take what you can get from them, and you scrap and claw for 90 minutes and hope that when the blood's on the ground that it's not your blood. John?
I believe that's your morning kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCo.com is the website. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. Get 15% off of your coffee purchases. Thank you for everyone who has decided to invest in their morning wake-ups with our friends at Kickoff Coffee. Don't forget to follow them on all the social media platforms. Remember, 10% of all of their proceeds go into benefit youth programs. So use the code SoccerDownHere15. Get your morning wake-up from our friends at Kickoff Coffee, KickoffCoffeeCo.com. And once again, thanks to them for being a part of everything at Soccer Down Here. Now, Jarrett, to your point, Miami's 1-5-1. Charlotte is 0-7-2. Atlanta is 1-5-1. Toronto is 0-5-3. Columbus 1-2-5. DC is 1-4-1. Chicago is 1-6-2. So that is 7 teams in the East that do not have 2 wins on the road. In the West, you have Colorado at 0-6-2. Portland at 1-4-4, Kansas City at 1-7-2, San Jose at 0-6-2. So there's your 4 right there in the Western Conference. Those are your 11 teams. But just to get into it and take the next step up, 2 wins on the road this year. We'll start in the West. Seattle's 2-4-1, Houston's 2-5, Vancouver's 2-7, Minnesota's 2-5-1. Houston, Vancouver, and Minnesota are all below the playoff line right now. Seattle's at 2-4-1. Dallas is 2-2-4 away from home this year. They are 4th in the table in the West. RSL is 2-4-3 away from Rio Tinto. They are 2nd in the West. 2 wins on the board in the East. New England at 2-3-3. They're 6th. New York City, NYCFC, 2-3-1 in the Eastern Conference away from home this year. Where's NYC in the table in the Eastern Conference, Jarrett?
I believe they are sitting right near the top.
They are 2nd in the Eastern Conference, 2 points behind Philadelphia, and we will get into the Philadelphia-NYC match.
Ooh, buddy, won't we?
As we go here in just a little bit. But since you did not get the opportunity to catch up with the rest of civilization on salty takeaways, we'll go through your thoughts on salty, and if there's anything that I remember from 30,000 feet that I forgot. So your basic takeaways and all of your takeaways from the match with Atlanta losing 2-1 to Toronto on the weekend up at BMO.
I mean, it's games like this that make, honestly, for me, they make the loss to Columbus hurt even worse because, when you lost at home to Columbus, you needed to steal 3 points somewhere. And you didn't do it in this instance, and you did what we said you couldn't do. And you did the exact opposite of what I wanted you to do, which is you gave up an early goal. It was a really Jekyll and Hyde night from George Campbell. It's a god-awful giveaway from a center back who's 19 years old. I think he's 20 now, actually.
I think you're there, right.
But really bad giveaway from him, and just ends up you're already under pressure because you started the game flat. And I know people don't people have their opinions on excuses. I do think that it's worth discussing the injury to Brooks Lennon. Like, the injury to Brooks Lennon impacts you. Like I don't know how much people have dealt with sports in general, like in your playing days, of if you've ever had someone go down injured like that right before a game. It screws with your head. It's tough mentally to deal with. I think it did rattle them a bit. They got their head into the game, but they didn't get their head into the game fast enough. And you combine that with a mistake by a young player, which young players are going to make mistakes. We play them knowing they're going to make mistakes because of what they can be down the road. You give up an early goal and you end up in a hole against a team that felt Toronto needed it because they played first choice in the midweek when they beat Montreal in the Canadian Cup. But getting that early lead for them let them kind of sit a bit. And they're not going to sit back and not do anything. I mean, obviously they were countering, they were causing Atlanta problems. They had a number of opportunities and some good plays. Alan Franco, for instance, had a really good deflection at one point. I think he deflects a shot off the post. But you put yourself in a hole. We talked about it before. You can't do that, and this team has done that. They did it against Columbus. It's like it's hard. It's hard enough when it feels like at times they haven't started quickly, and then when you have an injury where one of your Ironmen goes off, has to be carried off the field, it's going to mess with your head. They finally got their heads around it. I thought they looked better. I mean, in the first half, they're getting countered to death because Toronto's just waiting for them to make a mistake, and they were sloppy at times. I thought about it. I had some sloppy moments. Marcelino Moreno is what he is at this point. And that I love Marcelino Moreno. Like, he was 5 of 6 on his dribbles. He is at any given moment capable of playing a game-breaking ball, as he has done multiple times. And if it's not there, he can still cause problems, but it's why I have likened it to him being my concert master to Thiago Almada's conductor when Almada's healthy and not suspended for bumping a referee. Because I like Moreno playing off of him, being able to do that, but not being asked to be the conductor of the entire offense. I think his best role is kind of playing off of a guy like that. But you forced your hand in this instance, and he's having to do all that. But as bad as it was there, you fight back. You get the goal in the second half, which is a really good step by George Campbell to contribute to the turnover. Ibato's there as well. It's a really good ball to Araujo, who just plays like just basically does the Joseph thing. Like, and it's not just a Joseph thing. It's like a good player thing where you just wait out the keeper. Because in my head, all I can think about is the movie, is the third Mighty Ducks movie, where he's screaming at him like, "Make him make the first move, Conway." Because you're just waiting for the keeper to commit at that point. Araujo's comfortable. He's on his left foot at that point. He's comfortable shooting that with any part of his left foot. He can toe poke it. He can curl it. He can go outside the foot. He doesn't really care. He waits for the keeper to make the move, and then he goes against the keeper. But he just kind of waits him out because he doesn't feel like he doesn't feel that pressure to, I have to get this off my foot. I can wait out the keeper as long as humanly possible, and he does. And then you give the third goal sucks. Or the second goal, I guess, for Toronto. Third goal of the game sucks because Marcelino Moreno, who at times is very up and down defensively, does a good job of closing out Michael Bradley on that short corner. What you're hoping for in that instance, when he closes it out and deflects it and blocks it, you're hoping like, hey man, maybe that triggers something going the other way. Instead, it falls to a Toronto player who one times it into the net, and I don't know. I would be interested to talk to Rocco Rios Novo, and if he was screened on it, did he not see it well? Because the reaction was late on it.
Yeah.
And you're just not able to get one. And it would, to me, it would have been stealing a point because you weren't great on the night. And all the bodies you're missing, losing a staple in your lineup to what appeared to be a pretty serious injury. It sucks, man. Because you wanted to build off of that Miami performance, which was really good. And you probably should have had more against Miami. Go back to the Columbus game. The Columbus game sucked because you lost. Remember, Eloy Room also made like 3 or 4 saves in that game. He had 0 business making.
Saves, yeah.
And this is one where it felt like you didn't generate enough to me. And the result was the same. Like I guess in my brain, I'm kind of hoping like on a night like that, you just want luck to turn your way, where you've had performances where, okay, you've put yourself in a hole and then you've come back and you've stormed back, like the Columbus game where you played really well after that. And you created some really great chances and just got, beat by a keeper standing on his head. But tonight it wasn't even that. It was, or tonight, Saturday night wasn't even that. I think I was just at that point hoping steal a point on the road because you've lost points that you deserved. I'm totally okay stealing points you don't deserve.
It's especially with the numbers that we went into about all the teams that have either not won a match on the road this season, only won one or only won 2. You look at the numbers, and I went through this briefly, but I want to get into some of the numbers. Luis Araujo and Marcelino Moreno each had 7-7 and a 7-6, even with yellow cards in that match against Toronto. And when you look at the Araujo goal, he absolutely is working his way down Quentin Westberg's left, and Westberg is trying to close an angle, and then Luis pulls it back to his left and just puts it right past him. And I think you're reminded in these kind of situations where Luis Araujo will want to put a game on his back and try to will everyone else forward with him. And you get a moment like that in the equalizer with Luis Araujo. And I thought that was, once again, part and parcel as to why he was brought in here in the first place. When you look at what you were talking about, when Brooks Lennon is physically carried off, I mean, no weight on his leg or anything, and one of our listeners actually was behind the bench and had a photo of Lennon, and had the photo of the field, and then mentioned that Lennon was on crutches after the match in and of itself, understandably so, in a preventative sense, not knowing any immediate information. And if we do get any information on Emerson on Brooks Lennon, we'll let you know. But it takes a while for everyone to almost reapply and re-understand what they have to do. When Aiden McFadden basically gets tapped on the shoulder and it's like, dude, you're going in, then that means that everyone on the back, Caleb Wiley, George Campbell,
was really good too.
Yeah, and I want to get into Aiden here in just a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
What that means that Wiley, Campbell, Franco, and Rocco have to reorient themselves. It means that Franco, Ibarra, and Emerson Hyndman have to reorient themselves and try to figure out, okay, where does Aiden McFadden integrate? What is he doing? And it's going to take a while to figure all of that dynamic out. And I think that that was part of why it took Atlanta United probably until the early 20s to get oriented or reoriented, for lack of a better phrase, because the new guy basically is parachuted in, and then you have to figure out things all over again. And it's going to take a while. And yes, I know that the pressure was there from Toronto FC off the top as well, and understandably so. It's like, oh, okay, there's a new guy,
blood in the water,
and we're gonna pressure the new guy and see what happens. And so they compressed the field and made it difficult for Atlanta United to work initially. But to your point about Aiden McFadden, once he got into the game rhythm, and I know that there was a goal on the board that was 8 minutes in, and so that was a part of this discussion. But I think that Aiden McFadden handled himself really well in an emergency situation where basically he was just dropped out of a plane, and it's like, dude, you're on.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. I thought Aiden really did everything you could have asked of him in that situation. It's tough.
27 to 35 in his passing on 70 touches on the day, 77%. 5 for 10 in ground duels, 1 0 for 3 in the air. So 5 of 13 in the overall, but 5 of 10 on his ground duels. 2 tackles, a pick, 1 block shot, and a clearance, and 2 for 3 on his dribbles and 3 shots, although all 3 were off target. But that's the Aiden McFadden book in an emergency start for Aiden McFadden going up against Toronto FC on the road.
Yeah, and it's a really tough book to have to fill out. Because you got to get yourself up physically and mentally to be able to play in that game and to play in that situation. I thought he did a good job of it. I thought Wiley was pretty good as well. I mean, it's the thing that back line all of a sudden turned into Caleb Wiley, who's still a teenager, really good teenager, but still a teenager. I
mean, it seems like
I don't want that to ever be lost in the case. Go ahead.
No, it just seems like the positive that folks want to use here. Caleb Wiley, comma, X number of years old, comma, and then they try to sit, and then they will explain other things in and around Caleb Wiley. But for me, Caleb Wiley is mature beyond his driver's license when it comes to what we're seeing with Atlanta United.
He is insanely mature for his age. The way he plays is, he's comically mature. He's very sly, very savvy about what he does. You had him. You had Alan Franco, who I think it was terrible. Thought Franco had some really good moments, in fact. You had George Campbell, who struggled. And look, I'm going to get whiplash from reading social media every time George Campbell plays, and I am going to send the bill to Atlanta United Twitter. Because the concept of look, George Campbell was great against Miami. Everybody was very happy, and they should be. Did well. Made a really bad turnover in this game and put you in a hole. Doesn't mean that he's trash and you should throw him out or you shouldn't play him or I don't know, any other hyperbole because people get way the hell up in their feelings about a stupid sport and a stupid game. And if you're playing money on it, that's your problem. Not anybody else's, if that's the thing about it. I'm going to get whiplash though from George Campbell discussions because he made mistakes. Made a bad mistake. He's had a couple of games this year where he's made bad mistakes. Also had a couple of games this year where he's played really well. He pressures to contribute to the turnover to create the goal for you Saturday night as well. I mean, George Campbell's going to go through those changes. He's going to go through those mistakes. He's going to go through those growing pains because he's still 19, 20 years old. It's just part of the game. It's part of being a kid. It's part of playing at that level. Aiden McFadden did really well. And that's a jump for Aiden McFadden. Because USL and MLS are not the same things. This isn't like a light step up. Like the game's faster, the game's tougher. It's physical. It helps that he's been playing, and it helps a lot of times for George Campbell and Caleb Wiley that they are playing in USL leading into this. Because yes, MLS is faster, MLS is tougher, MLS is more precise. You have less time on the ball, but you're playing against adults when you're teenagers. You're getting used to that physicality, that speed. Honestly, at times I feel like that disrespect because they're adults will know you're good, but they're going to respect you as a human being. Don't get me wrong, but you're a young player for them. They're going to try and take advantage of you when they can on the field. But I don't know, man. I get whiplash with George Campbell discussions because one week it's great and one week it's everybody wants to bench him. And I don't know, man. I mean, it's tough to be in this situation because you would think that in a normal world, it's Miles Robinson making that touch instead of George Campbell.
Yep.
Maybe it's it's somebody else in the midfield. Maybe it's Ozzy in the midfield all night. Maybe it's Brooks Lennon who, is in a different place than Aiden McFadden at different moments. It does wear on you missing this many key guys, not just missing people, but missing key guys. Because I think George Campbell has a lot of potential in him, and you're going to have to go through his growing pains. Not unlike Philadelphia did in 2018, I think it was, where it's Trusty and McKenzie, and just absolutely taking a beating at times where those young center backs were just getting knocked around and making really bad mistakes, because that stuff can happen with young center backs. You just kind of roll with it because what you're hoping is to develop them. And Atlanta's a unique system to develop them in because, as we know, Atlanta doesn't really give a damn about how young you are or, how you're feeling a confidence on the ball, because they're going to put their center backs in an island at times and ask them to defend 1v1. We've seen George answer the call in a couple games. Had a really bad situation in this one. I want to see how he responds to it, because there's nothing else about these guys, if nothing else about them. I feel like what we've learned, especially covering twos, John, up in Kennesaw, the dudes are mentally tough. That part it's kind of like the whole argument of like people criticize effort. I hate when you criticize effort, because it's such a very slippery slope. Like, yeah, I mean, John, we've talked about with other sports, like, when a team quits on a manager in baseball or in football, and you can just see it.
Yeah.
But it's like no one on this team has quit, from what I can tell. It's not a lack of effort; it's lack of execution. That is frustrating. Like, you want to see that turn around.
Yeah. Here's your numbers on George Campbell, by the way. 7.1, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore. 3 clearances, a block, 2 picks, 2 tackles, 1 dribble pass. He was 6 of 8 on his duels, won all 4 in the air, 2 of 4 on the ground. 82% in his passing numbers, 45 of 55 on 68 touches. And to your point about George Campbell, obviously, I'll take it 45 minutes at a time with George Campbell, where he makes the mistake. Then in the second half, when early on you saw Atlanta United finally work the big switch, there were a couple of opportunities where George Campbell in possession hit some ridiculous long balls to switch the field from the left to the right. And 6 for 10 on the day on his long balls. That to me, and I'm focusing on the second 45 specifically, when Atlanta United was trying to get the equalizer, you saw George Campbell engaging in the play, running forward for 20 or 30 yards and drawing defenders toward him as he was not on the back line. I believe, when you're engaged in the attack, you are not on the back line at that time. So I think that Campbell rebounded from the initial mistakes and was party to the success and the push that Atlanta United had in the second half.
Yeah, he had to be. When I talk about guys having mental toughness, that's what I mean. Like, you got to be able, you can't feel sorry for yourself. And we talked about this early in the season when Atlanta had the injuries. No one else in this league feels sorry for you. Everyone else sees you as an opportunity. You can't feel sorry for yourself because no one else is.
Nope.
George Campbell cannot feel sorry for himself because he made a boo-boo. All he can do is go out there and try and make it right. I thought he did a pretty good job of that, but he's absolutely going to have to watch the game film and say, okay, where do I need to be quicker doing this. I need to be better doing that. Absolutely. That needs to be part of the conversation, but you can't sit there like, you can on Twitter, or I can on Twitter, where, we're just like pulling our hair out because there's potential in there. He can't sit there and roll up his hat and throw it on the ground and stomp it and pout. He's got to go out there and make it better. And I thought he did as much as he could, and especially as a center back, it's tough. You're not going to carry the ball up the field. No one's going to ask you to carry the ball and to make something amazing happen. if anything, you're probably going to cause more problems doing that.
Yep.
So he did it. He did. I thought he did what he could to do just the next right thing.
Alan Franco on the day, and I'll go through the numbers on the back line because that is one of the questions. When we get to the folks on Twitter, that was one of the questions was about the back line in general. Alan Franco, 4 clearances, 2 blocks, 3 picks, 3 tackles, 1 dribble passed. Alan Franco on the day, 7 of 10 in the duels 2 for 4, 5 for 6 in his ground duels, Alan Franco. And 82 touches, 80% passing at 51 of 64, 3 for 5 on long balls and 2 for 2 on successful dribbles. So you had George Campbell, who was 6 for 10 in long balls. You had Alan Franco, who was 3 for 5 in long balls. So, I mean, that's 60% when you're really doing a lot of that particular activity. And Caleb Wiley on the day, just to wrap up the back line. 2 for 4 on the ground, 0 for 2 in the air. Let's see, 67 touches, 84% in his passing at 42 of 50, 1 key pass, 0 for 3 in crosses, 1 of 6 on long balls. So Caleb Wiley, once again, George Campbell, Alan Franco, Aiden McFadden having to kind of work things out on the fly with the injury to Brooks Lennon. And once again, when we find out anything about Brooks, obviously we'll let you know. But when you're carried off in pregame warmups, that is not a good thing. Anything else stick out to you before we get to the Twitters and everything else that went on in Major League Soccer, specifically with a game in Philly this weekend?
Not really. Like it's you wanted to get, this was your best chance, I think, to get a win, at the very least a result, and you didn't do it. You had some stuff go against you, and you're just screaming in the face of adversity at this point. And you're gonna have to honestly, I think you just it's I don't mean, man, I don't even mean it as a cop out, but whatever, take it however you want. You need some good luck to go your way.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that is something getting called back from VAR, somebody else hitting the post a couple times. Like, you could really use a game where, like, you just get a break for more than 2 games without an injury, to play an imperfect game and get a result out of it. Because I don't know what you do going into, like, you go into Red Bull Arena and do what you did last time, which was hilarious because people have complained for years about Atlanta United not breaking teams down when they came in and basically refused to play in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Atlanta went to Red Bull Arena last year and basically refused to play and got a result out of it. Hell, do it again for all I care. And if anybody complains, we got hours of tape showing them plenty of teams that choose to not play against Atlanta. Honestly, if you want to roll into Red Bull Arena and say, hey, we need a point, we're going to play it defensive. And if Red Bull steps into the press, we're going to launch that damn thing long and see if Joseph can catch it. And I don't care. Yeah. Go do it.
Yeah.
If people get mad, cry about it. Go out there and try and just get a result. I don't care how you do it.
Well, I don't think that the Red Bulls will have, I think, was it Dylan Nealis? Because he picked up his fifth.
Yeah, Nealis got a yellow.
So Nealis got a yellow, and something else to
Sean
keep.
Nealis.
That Nealis, yes, thank you. So one of the Nealises got his 5th yellow.
The Neali.
Yes. Also something else to keep an eye on. Carlos Coronel went down in the second half in the match against LAFC, and this was just before the 2 goals in basically 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and was grabbing at his right hamstring, had to come out. The physios took a look at it, and he stayed in. Ryan Mara did work out. He did kind of do some toe touchies and take his bib off and tie his shoes, but he was not substituted in for Carlos Coronel. Keep an eye on that on the quick turn for Red Bull. So one of the Neali not in because of a 5th yellow. You had 3 players, including Aaron Long and Luquinhas, I believe, who were in health and safety protocols, were not part of the match against LAFC. Keep an eye on that as well. Could be an interesting side that Red Bulls are forced to put out in the midweek against Atlanta United, with one of 2 matches on the road in the Harrison, New Jersey / Bronx over
that's going to be a hammer fight.
You aren't kidding. All right, so let's get into the Twitters and some of the thoughts from the folks. And they're not just all about Atlanta United, because Ricky Ricardo did have thoughts about stuff that happened in MLS on the weekend, and that'll be our transition to talk about all the other games. Some folks on the timeline were wondering about what could be done to help the back line, because you mentioned the mistake from George Campbell, and there were passes that were wayward. I don't know whether it was just not putting enough behind it or thinking that there was enough weight and there wasn't, because you're looking at what was going on with the turf at BMO or what have you. There were too many passes that were not going to their intended targets. You mentioned George Campbell early on. I think really when it comes to helping the back line, and I know that this may sound trite as it comes out, but it's consistency in time. And once again, in this particular matchup, you were thrown something. You were thrown one of those Mark Mulder curveballs with
Jesus, what a throwback,
with Brooks Lennon or Bert Blyleven.
You mean Barry Zito curve?
Yes,
back when he was in Oakland.
You've got a Barry Zito, Bert Blyleven curveball thrown at you in pregame warmup, and you're having to rework things on the fly. The game plan that you had, it's like, yes, the game plan didn't change, but when Aiden McFadden comes in, that's a different personality that you have to adapt to. Helping the back line, I think staying healthy first and foremost, and then being consistent with your personnel and just becoming acquainted with one another, regardless of who that personnel is. Because Caleb Wiley, George Campbell, Aiden McFadden, correct me if I'm wrong, but they all got to spend time together with the twos.
They did.
So having that rhythm and that association helps those guys out. But what Aiden knows with George and Caleb, you've got to integrate with Alan Franco. And it's time that Aiden McFadden hasn't been able to spend with Alan Franco, considering that Aiden came in the Colorado match very, very late, spent 45 minutes against Pachuca, but his nearest line mate was Noah Cobb. And now you're having to work with Heineman, Ibarra, and Franco in front of you. And so it's going to take time, even in game state, to figure out, okay, what does he want? Where does he want the ball? How does he want me to act and react in here? And the biggest thing is, with all of these injuries, the consistency isn't there just because the personnel aren't there, and you're having to relearn relationships on the fly. I think that, when you're thinking about helping the back line, the biggest thing is consistency, staying healthy, and just understanding the guys around you. I know that sounds kind of simplistic, but I think that's where we are right now because of all of the injuries that have been happening around you. You want a lineup to be the same for more than just 45 minutes. You want the lineup to be the same for a couple of matches in a row so that rhythm is there. When all of the pieces are different and all of the jigsaw puzzle pieces are trying to figure out where they fit, the consistency isn't there, and you think that one thing's going to happen and you act in that manner and it doesn't, and then you end up with mistakes and something happening the other way. It's consistency and time. I think those are the two biggest things as we reach the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you got to find a way to make it work at this point, because it's not only is it not getting any better, it's getting worse with the injuries. So I guess I don't disagree with you. At this point, you're to the point of the season where you got to find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that. That's not an answer I have. But you got to find a way. And look, some of these guys playing, like, they're not your everyday starters. They bring you a different skill set, and you got to kind of figure out how that's going to work and how those skill sets are going to work together. And that's a coaching job for Gonzalo Pinedo. I think he's done a really good job, and I don't get the criticisms of Pineda, honestly, because he's been handed such a really busted hand this year.
Yeah.
He constantly is getting guys who are, every time you take a step forward, that step forward seems to be on an actual landmine.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do to make it work going forward. That's something that he and his staff are going to have to figure out, but they're going to have to figure it out fast, though, because you are running out of games, and you're going to have to be pretty much perfect at home the rest of the way.
Yeah, and you got to steal some points on the road. A lot of comments in Twitter about the back line specifically. And we'll go to Kevin from Charlotte. McFadden and Wiley look good. The center back struggles are real. We've gotten into that this morning. The Mexican male model we just signed, Purata, that's Kevin's words, will have his chance to take the spot. Kevin, to your point, he's going to have to earn it. I don't think that you bring in
have a chance.
Juanjo Purata and you bring in Gudinho just to sit there and say, hey, here, it's yours. No, you got to earn it because of what we've been able to see with players that have been there at the back and whatever position group you want to talk about when it comes to keeper. I think that what we're seeing from Roca Rios Novo will give Gudinho some challenge. I think that what we're seeing from Aiden McFadden is going to help out the depth in the overall when it comes to life at the back. And what we've seen from Aiden McFadden, Jarrett, is that just because you see Aiden McFadden in one place with Atlanta United 2 doesn't mean that he can't help you out in other places. And having those kind of multitaskers really will help your depth as Aiden McFadden becomes more adjusted to life in Major League Soccer.
He's going to have to be. He's going to have to adjust to it because it's going to be tough. You have to see what everybody can give you because it's going to be all hands on deck the rest of the way. I don't know who's going to be called on next at this point because I can't even keep track of how many people.
You got to be ready when they tap you, though.
You got to be ready when they tap you. It's just going to be tough. It's a tough ask because I think it's easy to say, hey, be ready. And it's a different thing when someone says, hey, be ready because ready is right now. Mm-hmm. And Aiden McFadden did really well. I take nothing away from Aiden McFadden at all on that performance. It's going to be tough, though, for anybody the rest of the way to step in, but they're going to have to find a way to do it, and they're going to have to find a way to make something happen. And it's going to be interesting because Gonzalo Pineda is not going to change what he does. He's not going to change how he wants to approach the game and how he wants to play the game. And guys are going to get tested. You're going to try and create chances because you have been able to create chances this game in Toronto notwithstanding. You've been able to create chances, create opportunities. Luis Araujo scored in 3 straight. How you continue to do that and give yourself a little bit of cover on the back line will be very interesting.
Michael Valverde, out of all the Atlanta United player transitions, the biggest voids were left by Michael Parkhurst and Jeff Larentowicz. No attacking DP can replace that kind of defensive soundness. Michael says that we need a new defensive anchor.
You're supposed to have Ozzie Alonso this year. He got hurt. He's one of the most respected defensive anchors in the history of this league.
Yep.
So you want to throw that on the pile of people who are hurt. You brought that guy in. Santi Sosa was looking like he could be that guy. Sosa's still like 22, 23, by the way. Just so we're not lost on that. It sucks that his injuries have kicked up this year because it seemed like it was going to be a really fun year for him. But you had Ozzie Alonso in Atlanta to anchor the back line, to play as much as he could, to be that guy. Brad Guzan had taken up a lot of that mantle. I think Miles Robinson was starting to take up some of that leadership mantle, even though he's a younger guy. You don't think of him in his 30s or anything. Joseph Martinez can be that emotional leader on the field. He's been off the field, just now getting back on the field. So, you've had those guys. They can't stay on the field because they keep getting hurt, just like everyone else on this team.
Yeah. David, who took my thrash? David still thinks, even with the injuries, that this is a playoff team, but I fear we may look back at 0 points in Toronto as a lost opportunity in seeding. When do I get very concerned? We cannot have a 0 or 1 point road trip.
You're very likely looking at that because of your history. It's hard to go in and beat New York City. And we'll get to New York City in a bit pretty quickly. Running out of time, but we can hit that real quick in a bit. New York City is going to be a problem. You've never scored at Red Bull Arena, much less won a game there. You've gotten a scoreless draw before. It's going to be very tough. And this is why that result hurts. And it's why the Columbus result, honestly, for me, is the most infuriating because that's the one where you had to get 3 points against a struggling Columbus team. You gave up an early goal, and then they basically refused to play except for playing the occasional long ball, which got them a second goal. And you put yourself in a bad situation. Like, you put yourself in a bad situation in Toronto as well. It's not to say it's a little more excusable, but it's a little bit more. It's you're not as taken aback when it happens on the road. versus when it happens at
With
home.
the context that's there.
Yeah, you don't want to do it, but when it happens on the road, you're not as irate as when it happens at home. It is what it is, man. I don't know when you pull the emergency oh god parachute, but you got to start getting wins.
Yes.
Bottom line.
Yeah, you most certainly do. All elsewhere on the board on the Twitters, it is Shiva. I just want to see more consistency in play. And yes, I understand we've not had a consistent lineup. I'm talking more about eliminating mistakes, and that's something that we've been talking about here in the Monday morning show. And focusing for 90 minutes, we have to string 4 to 5 wins together back to back to climb up the table. We have not had back to back wins since September of last year. Not good.
No, it's like I said, I mean, it's you're lacking so much damn consistency at this point. That you string together. It's weird because you strung together some good performances, but not wins.
Yeah.
So I think that's where a lot of that. If you ask the team and you ask Gonzalo Pineda, I think that's where a lot of the frustration would go. It's like it's not like we're not putting together good performances and not getting wins. They're putting together some good performances, but they're not getting the wins for it.
Yeah.
So that part does suck.
And last one on the board will serve as our transition to everything else going on in Major League Soccer that we talk about with you before you go. And we'll have some odds and ends around the world getting you ready for soccer over there tonight at 7:05 with the guys. And we'll also have picks of the week. So remember, picks of the week, except for one match that got canceled and pushed back to September. So Cali Classico got wiped off the board this week for picks of the week. Ricky Ricardo, 5 words. Gareth Bale to LAFC, what?
Gareth Bale to LAFC because they made it work. I don't know what else to tell you, man. They made it work.
They did.
I'm very interested to see how it works. They also got Carlos Vela to stay. They answered the question that we were all waiting to see. Chiellini's old hat at this point. I want to see what he does. Just you got to protect him. But God knows, hey man, even if Chiellini's a problem, they're going to have the goal scoring prowess to go out there and cause problems for people.
Yes. All right. So that kind of gets us into, we talked about LAFC and Red Bulls getting ready for the midweek for Atlanta United. So let's get into Philadelphia and NYC, shall we? What in the blue hell happened at 90 plus?
Well,
because admittedly, I was on date night, and I'm looking at our production thread, and I'm seeing this explosion of comments happening with what happened with injuries and physios and dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
The first part of that is it's the second time this season that Philadelphia's trainer has gotten into a barking and or shoving match with a player from a different team. And here's the problem with that. You had people working for the mothership talking about like, oh, this can't happen. It was funny the first time, but that's the thing. You allowed it to happen and you encouraged it by deciding it was funny and goofy the first time. So he gave you the leeway to do it again. So yeah, he gets out there again. He gets red carded. Never seen a trainer red carded. Not sure we'll ever see it again.
Does he not treat athletes for a game?
I don't know how that works. Maybe he's just not on the touchline and they have the other training staff and he's back just in case if something bad happens. I guess
walkie-talkie up in the press box.
I mean, I would assume you keep him in the locker room in the training room just in case something does happen. He just isn't on the touchline. But like it gets sideways, and it's the second time it's happened. It's an issue where somebody from Philadelphia goes down. They go down super soft. They're trying to time waste at that point because it's right before New York gets a penalty that ties the game up. Philadelphia is trying to see the game out. They're doing the dark arts because that's what Philadelphia does. And Tati Castellanos is just classic Tati Castellanos, where he's trying to rip the guy up and they all get into it with the trainer and with each other. Man, quit getting your trainer involved in spats, man. Like just tell him like, hey, you don't talk to them. And and if they talk to you, let the players handle it.
But that's not the Philadelphia way, though.
It isn't. And this is the thing. It's not just, we talked about this before. It's not just Philadelphia Union. It's Philadelphia as a whole. Like it fits the energy of Philadelphia across the board, going back decades now about Philadelphia sports. And that it's what it is. But yeah, you get that. You get New York City gets a penalty where a Philadelphia player has, they're arguing his arm isn't in a natural position. He's sliding, but his non-sliding arm is literally sticking up. Like when you slide, like try and keep it down around your body, bud. When you stick it straight up in the air, you give the referee that ability to say, "Hey, that arm is sticking up like the mast on a ship. That's unnatural position." Um, then they get a weird deflection goal to get the late winner in like the 93rd minute. Then some of that is also New York City doing a really bad job of clearing the ball out, and it's Philadelphia having guys charging into the box late to just one time a ball goes off Cordy Burke's stomach and deflects in. Um, then you get at the death, literally, as the ref is about to blow for full time, a possible handball where it had been a really harsh handball decision that would have handed New York City a penalty. They don't award it, and he blows for three blows, 3 points, and that's the end of the game. It was absolute stupidity. The trainer thing is annoying to me because I thought it was stupid the first time it happened. Everyone else thought it was cute, and now they think it's stupid. Well, look, if you have a kid and you let them do something wrong and you think it's adorable and cute, and they do it again and you tell them it's, that they shouldn't do that, they're going to be confused. They're going to wonder why they got away with it the first time and didn't get away with it the second time and why you're mad at them now. You tell them that they did something that you thought was cute and cool, and we give Jim Curtin a pass on everything, including calling Gabriel Heinze, basically a trash bag, and trash talking Gabriel Heinze because it's Jim Curtin, he can do whatever he wants. That's cool. Not screw that, man. Never heard another manager talk about another manager in this league like that, but y'all let it happen then. And now you get this way where you thought it was cool and funny the first time the trainer got involved, and now it happened again. You can't just decide that now that's not okay. Again, you don't do this with a kid. You wouldn't do this with your dog. You wouldn't do this with your cat. Don't do it in this situation. Look, I get that you hold different standards for different people on different things, but don't get mad when if it happens again. Because you gave it a pass and you thought it was funny and cool the first time. And I get it. Like, Philadelphia is a combative team. Like, Jose Martinez, I thought was going to fight somebody, and then he goes and hugs Tati, and it's just this reverse adorable moment.
But then he wouldn't get a card, certainly, or a suspension.
Oh, Jose Martinez will rack up plenty of cards in his life.
Well, but he won't get one for touching an official, but Thiago Almada certainly will.
Yeah, well.
Did I say that out?
One. The truth, yeah. Yeah, you did. Because that's what happened. But they weren't the same situation because Almada, to be fair, Almada's was like after a game, whereas Martinez was in the middle of the game, and they'll probably argue he was bumped into the official. I don't know, but yeah, just the whole thing with the trainer was stupid to me because everyone decided Philadelphia is fun and a circus and entertaining, and it's no shot on Philadelphia's fans or anything like that. It's the way that everybody talks about Philadelphia in this goofy, fun way. The trainer did this, haha. Oh no, it can't happen again. Then don't entertain it the first time. I'm done.
It's like SMU and the death penalty. It's like stop it, don't do it. But sometimes you got a mouthy little kid, and you just got to pop him in the butt. Quoting the great Dale Hans. Yeah. WFAA. We will see you tomorrow, yes?
Yes, you will.
All right. Again. And so we'll do it again tomorrow. We'll talk about more stuff. I've got more stuff after you go because we have to thank sponsors, and we've got odds and ends and other things like that. So commence the rest of your day and enjoy soccer over there tonight.
Thank you. Mucha plazio.
So as always, thanks to Jarrett Smith, and he's done for the day. So he'll be back tonight. Once again, reminder, soccer over there down at 7:05. Jason, Nick, Jarrett, Picks of the Week. I will not be a part of that show because when it's the boss's birthday, you celebrate birthday with the boss. And we are heading up to our place of enjoyment for the week that is north of the city. So we'll be north of the city doing soccer down here for the remainder of the week and all the other things. But before we go any further, giving you odds and ends and everything else that's happened this morning to get you ready for soccer over there, time to catch up with our friends at Eliminize for odor-free, clean, fresh air. One place you need to go. It's Eliminize Service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Eliminize Service has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers Use the Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our other masking agents that you have under the sink, because when you reach under the sink, you grab the masking agent, you spray it in the air. That's all you're doing. That's why they call it a masking agent. You're masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like a Lemonize service does with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. For more information about a Lemonize service, including any kind of questions you have, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's their website. Lemonize.com/Atlanta is your full homework assignment. So it is ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, so they know what part of the world that you are talking to them from to ask questions about a Lemonize service. A Lemonize service, Lemonize.com/Atlanta. A Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. So let's take you around the world and get you ready for soccer over there tonight. And a couple of things off the top. Let's go into transfer news from England. Of course, I can't quite do it the way that Jason does. Manchester City expected to field an opening offer from Chelsea for Raheem Sterling after Thomas Tuchel said publicly how he thought that Sterling would fit at Stamford Bridge. Pep Guardiola has said that he doesn't like to keep players that are unhappy, allowing for Sterling's exit, even to a rival, on the condition that an acceptable bid is in the region of £50 million is tabled. Matt Turner, officially now part of Arsenal, and the subplot that will be attached to that is, will he challenge Aaron Ramsdale for playing time? Because if he doesn't, then loan him out. Do something so he can be ready if he's going to challenge Zach Steffen for the number one goalkeeperness when it comes to the men's national team getting ready for the World Cup in Qatar. Benica Phobie agreed to join Millwall after a negotiation with Stoke. Also, Manchester United have held positive talks with Barcelona over the signing of midfielder Frankie de Jong. Growing belief a deal is moving closer. Romelu Lukaku due in Milan on Wednesday to complete the loan move from Chelsea to Inter. Chelsea looking at Sterling, De Ligt, Jules Koundé, among others, and Todd Boehly and Thomas Tuchel. Remember, with the outbound of Marina Granovskaya, they are the ones in charge of all of the recruitment for this year. Spurs targeting a package deal for both Everton's Richarlison and Anthony Gordon. Everton is anticipating a bid from Spurs for both players, which is set to be made this week. Sven Botman, the national crisis is over. Where Sven Botman is concerned, he has landed in Tyneside to undergo his Newcastle medical. The Newcastle has reached an agreement late last week with Lille for £35 million transfer of the Dutch defender. He was on holiday in Mallorca, where Newcastle sent a private jet to collect him this morning, becoming the team's third summer signing. Chelsea leading the race to sign Ousmane Dembele when his contract expires at Barcelona next week. You'll remember, Dembele impressed in 2017 when he was at Dortmund, triggering a £135 million move to Barcelona. Injuries and fitness, or lack thereof, have limited Dembele's capabilities at the Camp Nou. Liverpool is confident with Calvin Phillips moving to Manchester City that it leaves an opening to sign Jude Bellingham. Manchester United has also signed a 16-year-old keeper from League Two. Chelsea targeting two center backs this summer, once again having lost Rudiger and Christensen. They may be interested in bringing Nathan Ake back to the club. Sky in Italy have reported once again the interest in Matthias de Ligt, so keep an eye on Nathan Ake possibly working his way back to Chelsea. Alphonse Areola arrived in London ahead of a proposed £11 million move to West Ham from PSG. Looks like the 29-year-old may sign a 5-year deal. Keep an eye on that over the next 24 hours or so. And once again, reminder, in the lower divisions, Wayne Rooney asked to be allowed out of his deal with Derby County, with their club in somewhat of an upheaval at the moment. And so he stepped down on Saturday. He's decided to take a break from management, according to reports. So we'll keep an eye on what Wayne Rooney's next move will be. PSG confident in tying up a deal with Christophe Galtier to become their new manager. French champions have reached an agreement with Nice. Marca reports the deal likely to cost PSG in the region of 10 million euro. So Gaultier will be working his way in to take over at PSG. Pochettino working his way out. And the next domino there will be who gets to work at Nice. So that is a small amount of all of the action going on in transfer world. A couple of other things. Petr Cech is now out at Chelsea. He has decided to step away from his role in the front office. So Beck out, Granovskaya out. Now Petr Cech is out as well. And so we'll keep an eye on what we're seeing from Chelsea and how they look to fill those positions. Also on the board in any other quick moves and activities, mentioned Frankie de Jong. Arsenal have agreed to terms with Manchester City striker Gabriel Jesus. The £45 million signing could be confirmed as soon as today. You've got Fernandinho set to return to Brazil, signing a 2-year deal with Atletico Paranaense. West Ham have approached Villarreal about signing Arnaud Danjuma, but because of Danjuma's season last, it will be a tough grab for West Ham because he will be a wanted commodity. Manchester City star Bernardo Silva has offered himself to Barcelona, according to reports from the Daily Star. Daily Mirror says Manchester United could hand the captaincy to Cristiano Ronaldo this season as part of a newly installed leadership group. Also on the board, looks like Leeds United are ready to challenge Newcastle for the signing of Strasbourg defender Jorginho Niamsi. Say that 10 times fast. And this is one I forgot to ask Jarrett about. Celtic seeking at least £15 million if Atletico Madrid firm up their interest in signing Croat international right back Josip Juranovic. So we'll keep an eye on all of those as well. A couple of other things before we go. Once again, if we hear anything about Brooks Lennon, we will obviously, let you know when it comes to any injury updates, what have you, especially with the quick turn and Atlanta United having to work their way up to Harrison, New Jersey in the midweek and the Bronx on the weekend. And two other things before we go from our friend John Arnold. It looks like Angel City is going to play the Mexico national team on Labor Day as part of a multi-year partnership established with the FMF on the Copa Angelina. So that's an interesting piece of news coming out of both Los Angeles and in Mexico. And one other piece of news that found interesting this morning dealing with Renat Akhmetov. And if that name isn't quite familiar to folks, he is the owner of Shakhtar Donetsk. And according to folks over in Eastern Europe, Ukraine's richest oligarch, Renat Akhmetov, said back earlier today he filed a lawsuit at the European Court of Human Rights against Russia for gross violations of his property rights. He is the owner of metallurgical enterprises in Donbass, including the Azovstal plant, and is demanding compensation for his losses. And that comes courtesy of our friends in the press in Eastern Europe. Akhmetov is asking for billions of dollars to compensate for the blockade, looting, destruction, and theft of his grain and metal from Ukraine to Russia. And if you haven't had the chance, The Athletic has a great interview. I believe it was Matt Slater who caught up with Akhmetov about how difficult it has been for Shakhtar Donetsk and, frankly, all of Ukrainian soccer over the last 6 months or so, and what it's been like to try to give players their next destinations, try to get the Ukrainian Premier League up and running again in August, I think, is when they're looking at it, and just what Akhmetov and the front office of Shakhtar Donetsk are having to go through when it comes to sending players to their next destinations, dealing with agents, and et cetera. And it's a great read. So if you can look it up and you subscribe to The Athletic, that would be your required lunchtime reading today, is just to go back and take a peek at what Renat Akhmetov is going on now that he has filed a lawsuit in the European Court of Human Rights. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well. Once again, quick reminder, soccer over there tonight, 7:05. Jason, Nick, Jarrett. I will be making my way up north, and so I will be back tomorrow morning with everything that has been going on in the off day. Dylan Butler will be joining us tomorrow for his standard visit. Once again, we're on tape, And we will start taping at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll release it in the 10 o'clock hour after we catch up with Jarrett and after we catch up with Dylan. Once again, thanks to our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com for being a part of things here at Soccer Down Here. And once again, use the code SoccerDownHere15 to get 15% off your coffee. But know that 10% of the proceeds help out youth programs when it comes to soccer and growing the game. Once again, thanks to Jarrett for hanging out with us. Thanks to you for all of your thoughts and comments after the 2-1 loss by Atlanta United to Toronto FC on the weekend as they get ready for a big 2-game road swing up in the Tri-State this upcoming week, Wednesday and on Sunday. So for everybody here at SDH, get ready for soccer over there tonight. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha platio. We'll see you later on.